I also think sometimes people can take offense to femininity content because they think when we're talking about feminine character and like molding a feminine character or becoming more elegant or polished, we're talking about changing a woman's natural personality. And maybe they worry that it's creating something that's fraudulent or inauthentic. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin and I run the blog called Mrs.Midwest. Today we are going to be finally approaching a topic that I've actually been avoiding for years and years and years, and that is, what is a feminine personality? Now, we have covered feminine hair, feminine clothing, we've covered the nuances of feminine character, feminine lifestyle. Femininity is something that I'm really passionate about because I have personally seen how it's transformed my life to really lean into femininity, as well as many of you who have shared your journeys and testimonies in the comment section. Femininity as a woman is truly such a delightful, fulfilling, God-honoring, and just interesting journey for many of us to go on. Much like many men, when they dive into becoming more masculine, it really benefits their lives. I truly believe the same thing happens with femininity. And the reason I've been avoiding this is because I felt like if we make a list of feminine personality traits and you find yourself like totally not on that list, how is that going to make you feel as a woman? How is that going to affect your femininity journey? So I just haven't done it because it didn't make sense to me, because in my head I've always thought, you know, there's obviously like this classic feminine personality that we might think about, but I also think there's so many iconic feminine women, characters in books and movies and TV that we all feel are just total feminine queens, and they don't have that classic Snow White, personality. And so I really began sitting down and thinking, what is a feminine personality? And is it just one thing? And do we all have to aspire to be that? And obviously, you guys already know the answer is no. I am a channel where we embrace diversity of so many things: diversity of looks, thought, lifestyle, religion, opinion, and of course, diversity of personality. And so I decided to apply what I did for my femininity hair video and my feminine fashion video, and I made a feminine personality quadrant, like a matrix. And I have figured out how we can analyze and think about personality from a female perspective, and it's just kind of really interesting. I don't really think this is that serious of a topic, but rather I want to enlighten you today that if you're somebody who kind of feels like your personality is standing in the way of you being more feminine, I want to enlighten you today that maybe those traits are actually some of your biggest strengths and you're just okay the way God made you. So let's dive in. First, we need to set the stage on why this is a complicated topic. I feel like my other videos where it's talking about elegance or whimsical living or wholesome living or whatever, that's more about amplifying your like normal self into a more vibrant expression or creativity. Like talking about elegance isn't really changing, your natural personality. It's just refining the edges or learning social graces or learning things that can help bless you in your career or social settings. Elegance really isn't a personality. It's not like a baby or a toddler is born elegant. Like maybe some of us are more refined than others as toddlers, but most of us are just like wild animals that our mothers help shape as we grow. And so elegance to me really isn't about personality, and likewise. And so as I've been pondering that, I have been realizing that we mistake, oftentimes, even myself included, character for personality. Character is our moral approach to life, while personality is the way we were created. For example, while many of us cannot choose to be introverted or extroverted, we can choose whether we want to be patient and loving or rude and cruel. Character is a growing process, and as a Christian, I believe it's a growing process where we never quite cross the finish line. But personality is in our DNA. Whether you're organized or free-spirited, type A, type B, extroverted, introvert, all of that good stuff. And sometimes people confuse the two. For example, they might expect someone who's naturally kind of introverted to become more loud and vivacious and bold, or maybe expecting a super free-spirited person to become really organized and on top of things. Yes, we can sometimes become a little more balanced, but oftentimes those things are just naturally who we are. Likewise, you can mistake character for personality, defending biting sarcasm or serial laziness as, oh, that's just my personality, when really, no, you're just rude or lazy or cruel. I think instinctually we all know the difference between character and personality, but sometimes with femininity, I think it gets kind of blurred. I also think sometimes people can take offense to femininity content because they think when we're talking about feminine character and like molding a feminine character or becoming more elegant or polished, we're talking about changing a woman's natural personality. And maybe they worry that it's creating something that's fraudulent or inauthentic. It's like they think applying polish or elegance to someone would somehow conflict with the natural essence of who a person is. But this is not the case. Feminine character applied on top of a natural personality will yield a variety of different types of people. We're not all going to be spit out at the end of the elegance conveyor belt with the exact same Stepford wife Barbie doll personality. What feminine characteristics like that I've talked about in the past, like becoming a good listener, learning how to receive well, being gracious, grateful, being nurturing, all of those applied to your natural personality is going to just enhance your natural femininity and your natural beauty, but it's not going to inherently change whether or not you're introverted or extroverted or whether or not you're free-spirited or organized. That is just a core of who you are. So when we're approaching this topic today, I want to be clear that we're not talking about feminine character, which everybody can access. Those are the qualities of being nurturing or like maybe bringing organization into chaos or creativity into some place that's like damp or dark or dull. Beauty, so sometimes, yeah, that can mean organizing a messy like space or beautifying your physical appearance or beautifying something external. But it can also be nurturing the people around you, nurturing your space, nurturing your heart, your mental health, or even growing into your talents through hard work and discipline and skill. It's about being warmth. All of that stuff is not a personality. It is an accessible journey where we can grow. It's more in the realm, honestly, of like spiritualism and growing spiritually as a person. Personality is so separate from character, but I think the reason there's confusion is because when you think of like the character of feminine, character of being nurturing and sweet and a good listener, sometimes that does overlap with some people's natural personality. Say you're kind of quiet. Maybe you come across as a good listener. Say you're really friendly and sociable. Maybe you come across as really nurturing and warm. Okay, so it doesn't really mean that you have a more feminine personality than other women. It might just mean that some of those feminine character traits come more naturally to you. I also think this is why we have these stereotypical, like if you think of a Disney princess, the ultimate feminine queen, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, Cinderella, those original three, where they're soft and sweet and quiet and demure, and their storyline kind of happens externally and they don't do much. Snow White's sleeping for half the time, Sleeping Beauty's sleeping for half the time, Cinderella's crying in prison until, she's rescued, and that's fine. And I've made a video before about like damsel in distress, Disney princesses, all of that. That's a whole separate topic. But I think those princesses get focused on as like such a good example of femininity is because they embody that receptive, quiet, nurturing kind of spirit. But today I want to show you and prove to you that you can be the complete opposite of Snow White, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty and still be like a feminine iconic queen. And like, to be honest, sometimes people will be like, oh, you look like Aurora from Sleeping Beauty, or you just Sleeping Beauty vibes. And it's like, maybe with the hair, guys, but the personality, me and Aurora could not be more different. Like, I have more of like a bold kind of chatty, loud type. I mean, I wouldn't even be here on YouTube. I wouldn't have withstood like the criticism on YouTube or the stress of YouTube or all these other things in my life if that was my personality. Like, I'm a little bit more of a hardcore personality than that. So I believe there are ways to display femininity and to be a feminine woman that don't fit the Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, Cinderella archetype. Because what about those of us who are naturally loud and jokey? What about the girlies who are a bit more of an ice queen instead of a warm, sweet Disney little princess? Are they feminine too? And will we all be Stepford wife clones of each other when we're done our femininity journeys? Smiling and waving and being oh so sweet, sleeping like Sleeping Beauty and just being all the same. No. Today I want to talk about our personalities and how they relate to femininity and how we as women can lean into our God-given personalities, and maybe even talk about today, some of the areas we can all grow in. This idea, and the reason I was able to wrap my head around it, is because I was rewatching Winx Club in the summer. Just like when I run on the treadmill, I throw on some Winx Club, and it's like this Italian 2000s cartoon. They have really cute style, but the thing I like about it the most, it's this girl group of 6 different fairies, and they're all so beautiful, so sweet, so feminine, but they all have such different personalities. And when I was watching this show, it made me really start thinking about, well, what does femininity look like in personality, and how are we as women made to be different? And it really made me settle on the truth that a feminine personality or a feminine woman is not just one specific personality type, because God intentionally created us very different as women. And if we are to lean into how he made us that way for a reason. And even if you look in the Bible, yes, you have Mary, the mother of Jesus, who was like, okay, and she just accepted, the huge responsibility that God laid on her, and she was very demure, very sweet. But then you have JL or Ruth, people who had to go through super hardcore stuff. You had Deborah, you have Rahab, who had to be in spying, you had really bold, intense personalities too. Moses' sister Miriam, she was kind of intense too. And that's how God made these women, and they've never, there's nothing wrong with their personalities. So, the quadrants: loud to quiet, and then we have soft to bold. And the best way to explain how this matrix is going to work is just by going through example by example, and we're going to start with the easiest one. So let's start out with soft and quiet. This is what I was talking about earlier. Soft and quiet personality. This is the classic feminine personality. Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, Snow White. I even think Lena from the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, Padme, Pam from The Office. Soft, quiet, more gentle, introverted angel. Maybe a little more passive, go with the flow. That's what the softness is. And when you blend the softness with the quiet, you're going to get that really fluffy, sweet, feminine vibe. Sweet, gentle, nurturing, possibly. Maybe she has dresses made for her by tiny animals. I'm just kidding, but sweet. I have a friend like this. She's honey, flowers. It's hard to believe that she does not have angel wings. She just has a nice presence, and obviously feminine in the way that people associate serenity and meek traits with femininity. And this is not a bad thing. These ladies are amazing. It was kind of interesting too, because when I was looking up examples, I found that a lot of the characters associated with this personality type were had soft curly hair, low contrast, very soft and sweet essence. And we're going to come back to the negatives, but those are the positives. We're going to go through the negatives of each personality too. But with soft and quiet, you can obviously see how that gets associated with femininity, because quiet, listening, soft, nurturing, go with the flow, relaxed, that there's a generosity there as well. Let's move to soft and loud. What do I mean by loud? Do I mean just a person who can't shut up? What do I mean? Can you be loud and soft at the same time? Yes. So a loud and soft girly. These girls are the work together leaders, energetic, moralistic, bouncy, social butterflies. Their softness allows them to be optimistic and vibrant, and they might be kind of dreamy or creative and expressive. Maybe they've been told they're a little too quirky or too much throughout their lives, and maybe they sometimes have a hard time fitting in, and it hurts because they love people. Here we have Little Mermaid, Anna from Frozen, Barbie, Elle Woods, Rapunzel, Bloom from Winx Club, Alice in Twilight, Mary Poppins, and I even think Raven Baxter. Just a lot of main character types with a bit of quirk. Especially the modern Disney princesses in the last 10 years. There's such a push for women nowadays to not be quiet, but you still have to be soft, girls. So we've come so far where we can now be loud, I guess, in media, but they still want you to be bouncy, happy, loud, and quirky. Especially in the millennial generation, like Jess from New Girl, that main character personality is just what a lot of iconic characters fall into. A lot of these characters I found they were blonde or redheads when I was doing research, which I found kind of interesting, like a bold hair color maybe for a bold personality. This is a personality type that I like half relate to, especially like the optimism and happy, love people. I can be kind of like loud and extroverted. These girls are definitely like such the life of the party and such a blessing, and they don't need to become more quiet in order to be more feminine, because there's something about that bold extroversion that helps them like be like nurturing to the people around them and to be social and warm and vibrant and gather for maybe experiencing hospitality with people. But yeah, that's bold and loud. And again, you can be anywhere in this like quadrant matrix. You could be in the middle. You could be like kind of loud, kind of quiet, but you're definitely soft. Or not really loud or quiet, but not too soft, not too hard, you know? It's a matrix for a reason. But let's go to loud and bold. Loud and bold. This sounds like the opposite of what we're supposed to be as a feminine woman, right? That's why I wanted to make this video, because I think loud and bold can be feminine, just in a very different way than Sleeping Beauty down here, okay? This quadrant's it is on the opposite side of the spectrum from quiet and soft, and I think that's why it gets so much flack. A lot of the times these girls in movies or TV shows are portrayed as bullies because they're bold and they're loud. So they're loud, so they like aren't afraid of expressing themselves, and they're bold, so they have strong opinions and strong confidence and strong intensity. Maybe they're a little stubborn. And in real life, I think sometimes these girls have people saying that they're selfish, or they take up too much space, or they need to keep their thoughts to themselves, or maybe they've put their foot in their mouth like once or twice in their lives. Me. I relate to this personality type. I would say I'm probably in the middle between soft and hard or bold, but definitely on the loud side. I just relate to this personality because I have been told throughout my life to quiet down, to just get in line, whatever. But I think God made a variety of us to have this personality type. I think loud and bold is amazing. So some icons we can look to: Jasmine from Aladdin, Stella from Winx, she's my personal favorite, Elena Montero from the Zorro trilogy, Blair Waldorf, Princess Leia, Monica from Friends, Amy March, Elizabeth Swann from Pirates of the Caribbean, Isis from Bring It On, Emma from Jane Austen's Emma, and even Hermione. Some of these people are the most beloved characters by many of us, and it's because they are bold. And it doesn't erase their ability to be nurturing. And yes, oftentimes these women are portrayed as very complicated in their storylines. Maybe they've been told they talk too much or they're too sassy. But I think that the loud and bold type is like the queens of the femininity realm. They know what they want, and when they're your friend, they are the best person you could ever have on your side. They're adventurous and earth shakers, and they can be incredibly dynamic and interesting and incredibly focused on what they want in life. I think this personality does get maligned by the media in stories, often playing, again, the popular girl or the villain or some other distasteful person, because their confidence can be interpreted as vanity or pride, and they can often be pressured throughout their life to dim their shine or quiet down. Maybe it's the leaders, the type A, possibly a bit of rigidity or intensity. And I also think sometimes the girls with this personality type can possibly not connect with femininity content because it feels so separated from their core of who they are. But I'm here to tell you, you are feminine. Just the way God made you, because that bold intensity is a fire within yourself, and it doesn't erase your ability to be a good listener. It doesn't erase your ability to nurture or to bring beauty or to be creative. It just might mean your hurdles in your journey are different than the other people, and we're going to go through the hurdles once we finish the whole quadrant and all the positives. Next, let's go to bold and quiet. So how can you be bold and quiet? Like, what do I mean by bold? Hard would be another good word to substitute for bold, like hard and soft. Like, there's just that rigidity into your beliefs and your desires. And if you're a mom, you guys might like have heard of like the strong-willed child, you know, a child who just knows what they want and they won't change their mind. And that, yes, that can be incredibly frustrating, but as a mother, I think we also know how incredibly like cool that can be too, because there's something about that hard core of these people where it's like that's an inner strength and an inner belief system that can really inspire and help the people around us. So is this just like a mean girl glaring in the corner, bold and quiet? No. Being mean or nice isn't a personality, that's character. So you can be quiet and a bit bold and edgy and still be nice and feminine. Bold is just about your passivity or your motivation in regards to pleasing others. And the cool thing about quiet and bold women is that they don't desire to please others as a main motivator. Instead, their core values and desires lead them. And that's not to say soft and quiet or soft and loud people don't have inner desires. It just means for those people, sometimes their biggest motivator is peace or being free, like go with the flow with people. Like their main focus is like the peace and serenity of their environment and the people around them. Whereas bold types may not care as much about that. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. So let's look at some examples. We have Belle from Beauty and the Beast. Yes, she is a black cat type, very stubborn against the beast. She had to live with the beast in his castle, and she did that to save her father. That is a total different level of like personality than like a Sleeping Beauty or a Cinderella. And that's not to say those women weren't strong in their own way. They are. It's just a very different way of expressing strength. We have Elsa in Frozen. She was totally a lone wolf. She was going through a lot. Katniss Everdeen, my personal queen. And if we do want to like look deeper on Katniss Everdeen, yeah, she was an archer. She was like super intense with survival, but she was nurturing and protective over her little sister, and she had to even take care of her mom. She was nurturing over Peeta, her love interest, and she brought beauty into the world by fighting for what she believed in and using her skills and her intensity. What a queen, right? Then we have Rosalie in Twilight. Obviously very ice queen, very mean, but there is like a backstory with her character. And the biggest reason I would categorize her as bold and quiet is because she just does not care what other people think. And she has her love, her Emmett or whatever, and they're, you know, together. And that's cool. That is okay to have like a rigid interior. I also think Elizabeth Bennet from Pride and Prejudice, yes, Elizabeth Bennet, she had that intensity where she was like, no, Mr. Collins, Ucky, no. And she was like fighting up against Darcy, who was so rich, and like, you need a bold personality to do that, right? Okay. And then we have Meg from Hercules, all these black cat types. Interestingly enough, a lot of brunettes and dark-haired characters in this personality type, which I found interesting. So these girls can be misunderstood because they're not just stubborn and they hold strong beliefs, and that doesn't make them less feminine. I think being misunderstood can sometimes drive these types of women in the bold category to not resonate with femininity content because maybe they even feel alienated from modern femininity tropes, and because they can't let go of that intensity, you know, because they hear, you know, I have a traditional marriage, so my husband's the leader, and they get their hackles up because they're like, what? You know, or I don't want a career, I want to be a housewife, and maybe they get their hackles up. And that's okay. And I think like if you can understand this about yourself and understand the motivation and not like fight against your boldness and your intensity and your strong desires, but rather kind of like work with yourself, you can lean into femininity in a really interesting way. So, of course, we have blends. I do want to briefly address the blends. I think I'm a blend, like right down the middle of soft and bold. Like I can be pretty like relaxed about some stuff, but then at the same time, guys, your girl is good at saying no to anything I don't want to do. So yeah, I have a bit of boldness to me. I would say Maria from The Sound of Music would be a good mix of hard and soft. Hermione too, maybe she is kind of bold, but you could put her more towards soft because she does also like the peace of people. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, I think is a good mix of quiet with hard and soft, or bold and soft, and then also Bella Swan. She would be quiet with a good mix of bold and soft because like Bella Swan had to be bold, but she also really likes like keeping the peace. And good example, right? So that's just to say you can be any type of blend. Going back through then, let's touch on the flaws for each type, because this is where we're going to take those feminine character traits that I've talked about in other videos and this one, nurturing, listening, generous, blah, 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 beauty, and then we're going to apply it onto your personality and see like what maybe like are some areas that you might need to keep an eye out. Okay, so soft and quiet. Let's start with the easy one, obviously. So obviously, if you are too passive or wafy, that can harm your life. You can go with the flow too much and marry a narcissist or never stand up to your family. You can have a Cinderella storyline where you end up trapped or in a bad situation with only a fairy godmother to save you. But girlfriends, fairy godmothers don't exist. So being too soft and too quiet is not a good thing. There's also such thing as remembering that people cannot read your mind. Sometimes in life we have to grow up and say what our desires are. And also there's a vulnerability in sharing our desires, especially with a spouse. Maybe you always say, oh, that's fine, to whatever your husband wants. But then he never really has the chance to get to know you or your desires or fulfill your dreams because you're too busy just like keeping the peace, keeping quiet. This personality type can get into trouble. It's not like, oh, you're soft and quiet, so you're automatically feminine, so you don't have anything to worry about. No, you guys need to take a page out of the opposite quadrant, as a lot of this stuff is. You have to look to your opposite to see like what they do well that maybe you can learn from. So the bold and loud girlies are really good at speaking their mind and saying what they want. And that's a really good influence for the soft and quiet. For example, Pam from The Office. She was so passive, she couldn't go after what her heart wanted until many, many years. She was in a relationship that was going nowhere because she just couldn't really address her true desires. So these girls, even though they may be stereotypically feminine, they have their own battles and they could probably benefit from a loud and bold friend. I think that's why I attract a lot of sleeping beauties as BFFs in my life, because I got that attitude, right? So when we are out at dinner together, I'm always the one to send the food back. I'm the one to creepy man approaches me and my friend and I'm like, no, thank you. Bold and loud is a great combo with quiet and soft, and I really benefit from these girls because they teach me how to chill out and be more relaxed and go with the flow. But remember, being too soft can make you a victim and a target. And you can also victimize yourself or stay stagnant in life by being too quiet. Let's move to soft and loud. Okay, what are the problems here? This one was kind of hard to wrap my head around, and maybe it's because I have self-blindness, because I do relate with loud and soft a little bit, but I do think this type can struggle with being too chaotic and too flighty, maybe having too much going on, not enough focus or precision with mundane day-to-day tasks. And so when we think of femininity, it's about a lot of that includes bringing order to chaos. And sometimes these types, I think, we're so excited about the world and we're so busy with people and being relaxed and chill and creative that our environments may fall to pieces. And part of being feminine and being grown up and being elegant is having order in the chaos. And so maybe we need to get a little better with laundry. Maybe we need to get a little more organized. Maybe we need to be more straightforward with our goals. I also think sometimes being blindfully or willfully optimistic despite everything can be a bit immature, and it's important to know when we need to be serious or admit defeat. So being really dreamy and grabby for fun all the time, it can cause problems with relationships or possibly handicap your ability to go deeper with other people. It's important to remember you're not always the star of the show. I've had to learn that. And if we look at the examples of Barbie or Ariel or Anna from Frozen, sometimes their storyline is where their dreams are falling apart around them and they feel so crushed because in their world, there's no happiness outside of like everything being optimistic and dreamy. And I think what's important for this type is to find joy despite mundanity or disappointments in life. And to also, remember that just because people think you're too much for them doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. I think this type, unfortunately, too, maybe they get a little bullied for their like excitable socialness, or maybe they don't fit in. And I just encourage you, if you're in this type, to bring order into the chaos and to take a page out of the book sometimes of the strength of the opposite quadrant, the quiet and hard, or quiet and bold types, where nothing can shake their inner core, That's amazing. So work on building that inner confidence that maybe you lack due to that softness and due to wanting to please the people around you. And to remember that you can stand on your own. You can have that independence and that confidence on your own. You don't need all the peace in the world from all the people around you to like you or whatever. That's where I would say that take heed. Moving to loud and bold. This one's obvious. It is so obvious. That would be to walk in kindness, and when you put your foot in your mouth because you said something you shouldn't, to be quick to apologize. So just being honest isn't enough. You need to be honest with love. Loud, bold opinions can be expressed and still maintain your femininity, but you need to couch it in kindness and softness, and that could help benefit your relationships. Having strong opinions and desires is good. Just don't make sure you're not steamrolling other people. It's important to not be selfish. And like if we look at Stella from Winx Club, or Emma from Jane Austen's Emma, or even Princess Leia, sometimes saying something out of sass or honesty can cause more hurt than we realize. So it's important to, look at life not just from that hardcore perspective of feelings don't matter. I've had to go through this, guys, but learning to be soft and more understanding of other people and their limitations, and to don't like make yourself a villain in other people's lives just because you have desires and needs, right? Like, think of Blair Waldorf. I actually think she's such a complex and interesting character, but you can also see when her beauty or success or wealth would get to her head and she would bully the people around her out of maybe even a deep insecurity. And so I would say for this type, really make sure that you focus on what it means to be nurturing to the people around you. And that doesn't mean being fake. Being sweet does not mean being fake. It means loving on people with encouraging words and vibrancy. And so when we think about femininity, of listening too, this type, maybe you need that reminder to listen. Maybe you need that reminder to not everything's a battle. Sometimes it's good to be more free-spirited and go with the flow and not be so rigid on like the plan. And this is something I've had to grow in. Even in being a mom, I can be a little bit like controlling with the plan, and when the plan gets upended, I get really, really stressed. For example, this video was supposed to come out like a month ago, but my whole family got pneumonia, including me. They actually got diagnosed yesterday at the doctor. I had it last week. Everyone's on antibiotics, and it meant we were gonna have to cancel Thanksgiving and push back taking Christmas card pictures, and I was getting so like worked up about it. And I just had to like pause and like realize people's emotions in my family and the physical like piece of us and the emotional and mental piece meant more than my rigid plans. And yes, maybe I can accomplish a lot as a person and a mom because of my intense boldness and my like drive to just like power through because that's the plan. But sometimes it's important for me as I grow in femininity to let go of like that control and that desire, So I think these types, we can obviously like have femininity really like close to us because maybe we're social and we can be like hospitable or nurturing or creative and accomplish a lot. But there's more to life than just being productive and accomplishing. There's that slow living, which is something I've loved leaning into. And I know a lot of people find freedom in femininity, and especially with this personality type, because it gives you like the permission to stop like they call it living in your masculine, where you're just like hardcore, go, 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 stressed, cortisol, all of that. And I think like as we slow down life, if this is your personality type, you don't need to lose your core of being productive or whatever. Like maybe you're going to go be a sourdough queen or like, do what I do, which is just like have fun with my creative side and like making a lot of friends and living life. These types don't need to become more quiet, and they don't need to become less bold or intense. Just make sure when you're expressing yourself, it's done like in a way that blesses other people, which that's just a Christian lesson in general. That's not even like totally about femininity. Moving to quiet and bold. This one is also very obvious. So this type often runs from vulnerability, and vulnerability is an important pillar of femininity because as you grow in your femininity and confidence, it's important to let other people know you and come close to you. So don't be so harsh and judging. Open up a little bit. Open up your rigid expectations. Like we can see, like if we look at Katniss or Rosalie or Elsa from Frozen as an example, shutting others out led to their downfall. And so it's important to have people close to you who love you. Maybe adopt a golden retriever early from the other opposite quadrant. If you're quiet and bold, you might think you don't need other people. The black cat. But all the types have stumbling blocks, and I think like learning from other people, not to mirror them or copy them or become a fraudulent, inauthentic version of ourselves, but rather to just enhance our weaknesses is a great skill. Like I was not born with strong arms. I lift weights. My life is better now because of that, because I strengthened a weak muscle. And it's, again, I'm not going to maybe have the biggest arms in the game because that's not naturally how I'm built, but I'm stronger. So for example, maybe a quiet and bold friend of ours will not be like the softest, like sweetest girl in the game, but you can always grow in these character traits that you're weak in, okay? Just like being super, super introverted and shy, maybe you can become a little more open to the outside world. Maybe you're almost too sociable and you need to like work more on your inner world and your close family. All of this can be balanced. So in total, I'm just trying to show that each personality can have stumbling blocks and hurdles. And just because you may be more suited in some areas to femininity doesn't mean you're perfect. And if you've always been jealous of a different type of woman, take heart, we all have flaws. So in general, why I think this matters is that however God made you, you're feminine. Personality is not inherently feminine or masculine. You're a woman, you were born a woman, so you're inherently feminine. So if you feel disenchanted by femininity content because you're not a quiet wallflower, beautiful and reserved, don't worry. There's a place for you. We need all types. The world is more complete when we have the bold feminine girls, edgy lone wolf girls, happy leaders like Ariel or Anna, and sweet princesses like that we all admire and want to be like. We need all of it. I want us to spread our wings and to step into the way we were created, because all of it was intentional by the Lord. So we can reach for femininity without altering our inherent personalities. It's okay to be loud and jokey and still be feminine. Maybe just don't make fart jokes all the time, and like make like a little more elevated humor. If you want to polish up, you can still be the life of the party. Maybe just like tone it down a little bit, like so you can listen to other people, think of others, include others. In fact, since becoming more confident and social, like in my own personal life, I've noticed that things are better. I've leaned into my natural personality instead of trying to be more soft and quiet. I've leaned into how I naturally am. And I have friends of mine being like, hey, by the way, thanks for planning that play date. I'm pregnant and I wouldn't be able to get out of the house if you weren't planning all these play dates. And I'm really happy to hear that. So I know that I'm not bothering my friends, but I'm filling that role that God made for me of, you're the social butterfly who likes people. You plan the stuff. People will come. It's like an ecosystem where we all need each other. So as we grow to be more feminine, we need to remember that an inherent part of a femininity journey is embracing who we truly are. So as much as I admire Flora from Winx Club or Sleeping Beauty, or as much as we all want to be like her, if that's not who you naturally are, it's a waste of time. So with everything, I encourage us to remain balanced and to consider and appreciate how God naturally made you. Write down characters that you identify with or match your personality. I admire Flora, but I'm more of a Stella. That's fine. I have a little bit of Barbie from the Barbie movie in me. I can be a little bit too, like, optimistic and dreamy and just moving through life. I can be a little disorganized, you know, and I can grow in those areas while appreciating who I am. So you don't need to be a wallflower in order to be feminine, because just being a woman and having a personality is feminine enough. You can have feminine character on top of all of this. So if we applied feminine character traits to, for example, to a Blair Waldorf, she would not be a bully anymore. She would be more sweet and a better listener, possibly. And then she would be able to use her, like, social graces and creativity and inner strength to accomplish amazing things for the world, you know? It's these things are so character driven, you know? And then if we look at like Cinderella, if we applied the femininity journey to her, I do think femininity includes like a level of inner strength. And she, I think in her story, kind of grows too, because she learns to like get out of her shell. She goes to the ball. She allows the slipper to be put on her foot, and she leaves poverty behind while having so much grace and remaining true to herself. So just because you grow, like, example, Cinderella didn't like turn around and like slap her crazy stepmother. She left that situation with grace, but she still left it behind. Okay, so she grew to have the strength to leave the abuse, but she didn't change in her core, if that makes sense. Elsa from Frozen, like, same thing. By the end, she learns to let people in, but she doesn't change her true core. Like, she's still kind of reserved. She's still stubborn. She's still, like, quiet and like, cerebral, but she has, like, people in her life, right? So as we grow in these femininity journeys, or just personal growth in general, you might accomplish more than you would if you just, like, didn't try at all, but the core of who you are is not going to change. So I hope that makes sense. I'm excited about this topic. I'm really interested to see, like, where you guys feel you land, or if you're a total blend, or like, where are you on this personality quadrant or matrix. It's just a bit of harmless fun. But I hope you feel inspired today to know that who you are and how God made you is not wrong. You don't need to be more quiet or whatever. So thank you for watching. If you're interested in more of these quadrant videos, I do have one for hair and fashion. If you're interested in, like, the topic of personality or like lifestyle, character, all of that, I have a bunch in my femininity series. Thank you so much for your video ideas you left under my recent hair video. I am taking them all into note. But in general, I hope you guys have a wonderful December and a cozy Christmas. I'm gonna try to film a Christmas vlog, like something more low-key. We'll see if it happens. As I said, we all just recovered from pneumonia, so things are a little nuts over here. But I do just want to say thank you for your time. I hope that you feel just inspired as you go into this holiday season, especially being around friends and family. You don't need to damper how you naturally are. And as we go into holiday season, we have opportunities to nurture others, to listen to others, and to express creativity. I got my present pile growing behind me. I'm having so much fun being creative and just diving into feminine character traits. So thanks for watching. Love you guys. Bye.